Okay. Good evening, everybody. Call the meeting of the regular meeting of the Ojai City Council to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mayor Johnston,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Blatz,
Here.
Councilmember Francina,
Here.
Councilmember Haney,
Here.
Councilmember Wyrick,
Here with a shout out to my granddaughters in Austin, Nola and Juniper, who are watching tonight.
Oh, how exciting.
This is sort of like a moon landing, a historic meeting of the Ojai City Council, all remotely during the pandemic. So we can give that to our friends over at the museum if you want to record that. Okay, well, we have a quorum, and let's see, where are we here? I'll get the agenda out. I guess our first item is the pledge. James, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Sure.
All rise.
I will, so that everybody can see the flag behind me, hopefully. Once the camera turns over to me, all rise. I pledge allegiance to
To the flag
of the
of the
United
United
States
States of America,
and to the republic for which it stands,
nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right.
That was interesting.
That was unrehearsed, public, in case you didn't know.
Okay, the approval of the agenda. Are there any amendments or adjustments to the agenda?
No.
No.
Is there anything on the consent calendar that were,
I'd like to pull F.
yeah. And I'd like to pull E. Are there any other changes? Do we have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Move approval.
Second.
Second. Any objection? Okay, so ordered. Item or letter E under item 1, the Sarasota Field. When we get, I would like to hold that at least until after we get the budget report this evening. It seems to me that the direction of the council should be to kind of put a freeze on expenditures that are not already contractually obligated, as well as any hiring of employees until we sort out what's going to happen to the revenue picture in the city as a result of the stay at home, be safe is the thing we want everybody to do, but there's going to be a consequence, not just for businesses, but for the city.
Yeah, and if I can say just quickly, I spoke with the Public Works Director about this item in depth because we have put a freeze on any new contracts or any new expenses. The one reason we allowed this to go forward on the agenda is that we did feel that this is a potential hazard that we need to address. The current condition of the two wooden poles are a potential hazard. So that was why we were recommending.
Safety hazard, you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, we'll have to change the picture.
Yeah, it says it as a hazard. Yeah.
Yeah, but to your point is any unessential new contract is on hold and frozen, but this one was a safety hazard that we're trying to correct.
The budget adjustment out of Fund 31 sounds like the costs maybe are, the bids came in excess of what the budget was. Is that correct?
Yes, that is true. The bids came in higher than what we had expected. We do have the donation from the Civic Association of $33,000 towards the project, but it still was a $21,000 higher cost than we expected.
Is there a second?
Well, let me ask this: would there be additional costs if we postponed it at this point? I mean, is this midstream, James, or because it says a change order? So has this already been? Are they started working on it, or?
No, we haven't started on it. So there's no reason we couldn't stop it. We just recommended moving forward because of the potential hazard.
Mayor,
Yeah.
I would argue that this maybe be an exception because one is my understanding these wooden poles are pretty bad shape, and the other thing is it allows this to be done without any disruption of any rec programs because they're all shut down.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well, there's no second to the motion so far. If there's no second, it will die for lack of a second. I'm hearing crickets, so we will.
Well, I would second it, Mayor, just to have the discussion. And I don't have a problem bringing it back after we discuss budget later on. I'm not opposed to that thought process.
Okay.
But what does it mean that it's a hazard? Is it a safety hazard at the moment? Can something happen if we have strong winds? That's my question.
Yeah, James, let me just add to Susan's question, because let's ask it completely. Is it the structure of the light post or is it the light itself?
It's the actual wooden pole itself, and I have the public works director here too, but it's the wooden pole itself that we are concerned about.
And along with this, is it an upgrade to LED lights? Is there an upgrade that's going along with this, or is it just a replacement of the pole and the standard light fixtures stay on it?
It's the pole goes from wood to steel, but no, it's not an upgrade of the actual light itself.
Okay.
So it's just the pole that's being replaced?
Yes, from
Okay.
wood to steel.
Did we approved this
Well,
last
James,
spring?
what's the safety hazard?
Later, and it's a safety issue?
Is the pole going to fall over?
I'm a little confused because the discussion says 2 galvanized steel poles with new light fixtures.
Right, but they're not upgraded fixtures.
They're not LEDs?
Well, I have the public works director here, so. No, come on.
There, or does this work? Or
No, come up here.
We can hear you. We can hear you fine.
So let's see.
Greg, get out of my chair.
So the question is, so we're replacing the wood poles with steel poles. Are they LED lights or upgraded?
Right, and we are not able to upgrade those. We looked carefully at that. These are 50% more efficient than the existing lights because the higher reflectivity improvements they've had over the years with these HPS type lights. And they, unfortunately, you can't go to LED because you need more poles with more LED fixtures. You need to swap the whole field to LED. You can't really just swap that one pole. I can highlight that pole. Yeah, they're in bad shape.
And how dangerous are the existing poles?
They're pretty bad. We've been trying to get to this for some time. If you go there, there's acorns being placed all the way to the bottom. I mean, there's a spiraled, deteriorated pole on both of those poles in bad shape, and as well as the cross arms, they've shifted a bit.
Also, not that I know too much about this, but we got another complaint about lights that don't point down, about light pollution. So these lights are automatically pointing down. Is that correct?
Yes, and Councilman Warwick did have information request on this earlier, and these are state-of-the-art, fully glare protected cutoff type fixtures. Yeah, so the bulb is actually above the horizontal line, so it meets the intent and actually even the spec of the dark sky ordinance, except they're so high in the air it's possible you could see them from an adjacent area.
Thank you.
Any other comments on this topic?
Well, it sounds like if the poles are in that bad a shape, the last thing we want is, to literally fall down. Would it cost more? I guess, Greg, would it cost more to replace it if it falls down than what we're trying to do? Obviously you got to remove it and everything if it falls down. That would just look bad if one of them actually fell down.
The liability after having this.
Oh, then especially if it fell on someone, that would not be good too. But it looks like Greg is saying, hey, like we're sometime in the, nearest future, as could be reasonably calculated, that they may just topple over.
To try to give a quick picture of that again, when I mentioned acorns, I guess sometimes you see those woodpeckers working pretty hard, and they're working during the mandatory pre-bid right there while we're there. And it's not just individual holes for each acorn. In the poles, you can see the basic growth of the tree spiraling up, and you can see that separation, a good 1-inch separation spiraling up to both poles. It's not like just acorns holes from woodpeckers. It's also just those poles are probably 60 years old and at least in deteriorated over the years.
Yeah, I'm gonna say I know for a fact I knocked a couple balls off of those in Little League. So it's been a while.
Okay, well, let's, all those in favor say aye.
The motion would be to defer?
Yeah, to defer.
Well, what do you mean the motion is to defer? What does that mean?
To hold off until we talk about the budget, which we have a budget report tonight.
Oh, I thought we were going in the other direction, that it was a safety hazard.
Well, that's how you may vote, but the motion was to defer it until then. I would vote aye. I haven't heard any other ayes. All those opposed?
No.
No.
That's only 2 no's. What else? Is
I
anybody
said,
else?
I heard 3 no's. No, Bill, no, and Susan, no. I didn't hear Randy.
And
It
I'm
might-
beyond.
Okay, motion is defeated. We're gonna have to get better at this. Maybe we'll have a roll call on everything. Okay, Randy, you pulled F. What?
Yeah, I just, as I was looking over the streets that are in the paving menu, and I noticed that Pleasant Avenue was on it. Thank you, Greg. But I still wanted to know, and I think I ask this every year this comes up. Can
Wait,
you share
Randy-
with us-
Randy,
Can you-
sorry to jump in there. We didn't still get a vote on item 1E itself before we jump to item 1F. The motion to continue it failed, but that still leaves no action taken.
Oh, okay.
Move to
Okay.
approve.
Right.
And
Okay,
actually,
we got a motion to approve. Second.
before we vote, can I note that we did receive one public comment on this item, which was referenced earlier. It was about making sure that we comply with dark skies ordinance.
All right, that's from Meg Goodwin.
From Big,
Yeah.
yes.
I saw that. I did review that as well.
Okay, we have a motion to approve from Bill. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any opposed? Okay, I will.
Only you, Johnny.
Okay, motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, Randy.
That's okay. So getting back to F, I just, again, I'm not, I would like a list, Greg, and maybe it's something simple you can provide me, but I would still like to know the last time some of these roads had been paved and where are these roads in the big picture of paving within the city? Are some of these being done sooner than some of the roads that have not been done for a long, long time? And so those are just questions that I have. If you have that information, I'd appreciate if you could get it to me. If any other council person would want it, I would submit that you submit it to them also. But I just want to make sure that we're not being redundant in our paving, and that's paving streets that have been paved in the last 10 years versus streets that have not been paved in 15, 20, or 30 years. That's all.
And I just want to assure you, Councilman Haney, that that's absolutely the case. These streets are approaching at least 30 years since the last paved job. And also I want to highlight, this one is strictly for the SB1 requirement to have a list. There's still the intention to come back to council before we proceed with the engineering, and we'll have a full list of all streets that we propose paving. That'll be the final list that council approves to proceed with the engineering on. So that would occur.
Can you also, Greg, with that list, can you also submit a list to us on the slurry sealing process that we just bought that equipment for, and maybe give us a list of the streets that are going to be slurried in the future? I think we're still waiting for Metal Arc or Metal Arc Oak around the corner for me to be slurried. I'm not sure when that's going to take place.
Okay, just keep in mind too, that was a hot asphalt patching. It's a pothole patch trailer. And I think because of this, maybe the COVID issue, that demonstration wasn't heavily attended or something, but so we don't have a slurry seal. We just have a hot asphalt patching, potholing repair, but we can give a list of streets that we're moving through on that.
Well, I thought the whole goal behind that, because of the deterioration of that street, was that we had a process that we were going to be able to slurry it. Am I wrong in that?
Yeah, it was not slurrying. It was,
Just to fix potholes?
There's a
There's
pothole.
not potholes, that whole street's
potholes and
deteriorating.
cracks. The slurry we normally do as a routine maintenance in order to extend the life of the street. These are for streets that have already, their life has been expended, and they're trying to glue them together.
Mhm.
Well, no, I understand what a pothole repair looks like, but I was under the impression that we had the ability to actually completely coat a street. And that's why that this was put off last year's budget for an overlay, is that we had the ability to do that in-house. Am I incorrect?
Right, the intention was we would go through and do a hot asphalt repair on the street, and we would do a crack filling job on the street. But yeah, we haven't purchased a slurry machine. We don't have that ability.
I have a question when you're done, Randy.
Well, then I'll talk to Greg and to James later on and try and set up a meeting to look at the machine and actually have a discussion about that street and what we could do in the future for it. That's all. That was my only question on this.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Susan?
have a question.
Yeah, go Susan.
Mayor, may I?
Yeah.
First of all, Greg and James, are you sitting too close together? Or are you 6 feet apart?
I think we're technically 4 feet or so. So, I mean,
Okay. But that's not my question. Okay. Can we talk for a moment? Does bicycle safety infrastructure, should that be included on the list? Because I remember that last year when we discussed it, I remember that the mayor, I think, said that bicycle safety improvements would need to be included in the capital improvement projects in order to get funded. Or does that happen separately? Because there's a note at the bottom of the page about Measure C money for additional infrastructure. Because some of this, remember we talked, Greg, about when you fix the street, that at the same time you do bicycle striping and that sort of thing. How does that work?
Well, and again, this one is strictly a requirement of SB1, the accountability portion of the act. So we have to say what we're going to do that would utilize the funding. So the funding you can see on page 2 of the report is about $350,000 every for this year. We're in this current
Yeah,
year.
I see that.
Yeah, I'm sorry, for 2021, the upcoming year. So we're just showing that we're using that money to lock in that funding for the city. And then when the city, when staff comes back and says which streets, we always include a complete streets component. And I think there's some discussion about possibly doing things like you're mentioning, bike lanes and so on.
Okay. I just don't want to lose sight of that, So, okay, thank you.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve?
Move to approve F.
Second.
Moved in second. Any objection? If not, so ordered. Okay, let's.
And may I move to approve A, B, C, D, G, H, I?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? If not, any opposed? Okay, good. I thought we did that one. So we ordered. Okay, we're so ordered.
Mayor, I have a text message that they're not getting the YouTube live stream. Just bringing that up.
James?
Are we live streaming on YouTube or just on channel 10?
we should be live streaming on YouTube, but somebody just texted.
Yeah,
that.
I know that somebody texted me they can't get it on the normal link they do, where they normally look on our website. They can't see a link either.
The website. Okay.
Yeah, usually you can either go straight to YouTube or you can get it off the city site usually. And I don't know if the link for this is on the city site.
Okay. Yeah, I had the same sort of message, I think. Yeah.
Okay, so where are we on that? Is it, can that be corrected now or are we just out of luck?
Yeah, let me, let's see, can we take maybe a 2-minute
Reset?
Yeah,
Technical break.
yep, technical break. Not unexpected under these circumstances.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
I have a comment before we move on when we work out the glitch.
Okay, we're taking a 2-minute break. We'll turn the cameras off here. Yeah, it's just a little delayed since it's restarting.
Okay, so I'll call the
Okay,
council
good.
back to order. And Susan, you had something you
Yeah.
wanted?
I just, on item F, since we don't have public comment as we normally do,
Mhm.
I think it's important that we give Russell Sidney assurance that his rather lengthy and in-depth comment has been read by all the council members. I just want to make sure, because I'm sure he put quite a bit of thought into his concerns about, including bicycle infrastructure when we do, when we fix the roads. I think it's important that the public, that we acknowledge
Well, we'll go to
that we
public comment.
received
and
this,
I
and
can
that
read the
since, because
summary.
normally he would be at the podium reading this, so
Yes.
Okay, where are we? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. We are at the public comment period. Is there anyone in the audience that wants to speak?
There's no one here presently. We had 2 public comments submitted.
Okay, do you want to, which public, they weren't related to a topic though, is that
You're
right?
right, exactly. So do you want me to read those?
Okay, I have, go ahead, yes.
Okay, so there's 2 general public comments today. One is from Ron McCrae requesting that the city remove the nets at the pickleball courts during the quarantine to encourage pickleball players not to use the courts. And the other's from Dale Hansen also about pickleball during the quarantine and requesting it to be closed.
Okay. And then we mentioned the other 2 comments that were received, one for item E and another for item F. Okay, we're all caught up on that, and then we'll close public.
I lost the connection, so I'll listen on the phone.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
All right. So I'm putting Suze on the phone. She's lost her connection, but she can hear us through this.
Yeah, it's trying to reconnect, so it might go back.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so we have acknowledged all 4 of the comments that were submitted by email, and they'll be entered into the formal record by the city clerk.
Yes.
And that's all we have. So we are going to close public comment and move on to discussion item number 2. James, would you want to kick that off?
Yes. Give me 1 second here.
Can I ask you, can you still see me on the screen, or am I just audio now?
We cannot see you on the screen.
Okay. Okay.
So audio only. Okay. All right. So this item was put on the agenda. It was written on March 18th, which one of the points we made in the item and that we'll make now is that everything is changing so quickly with the coronavirus that we put the item on the agenda with a report of actions we had taken, but knowing that in the next 6 days from the 18th to now that there'd be a lot more actions taken and a lot more developments occurring. So we'll say that up front. Obviously, we're all dealing with the coronavirus situation currently, which is why we are publicly, we are holding the meeting this way and practicing social distancing. For the benefit of the public, we will continue to try to have these video meetings this way, but this item, to give some background, the city declared an emergency on March 13th, 2020, a public health emergency to enable the city to react quickly to the coronavirus and take any needed action and also be eligible for potential reimbursement or funding. Which was 2 days after the second case of coronavirus was reported in Ventura County. Since that time, obviously, people have probably watched and seen that the case count, I believe, is up to 39 today. I think they've released that they're up to 39 in the county, with 2 now being within the Ojai Valley. So it's just kind of constantly changing. After the city declared a local emergency, we took several actions, such as lifting rules and regulations regarding grocery store and food delivery to help ensure residents get needed food and supplies. We enacted a residential eviction moratorium, which helps to protect residents who would otherwise be evicted due to the coronavirus and its impacts. And we're also putting a focus on getting public information out in a variety of ways, including video updates, updates on our website, social media usage, and signage. Since this item was prepared, the state's called for all bars, wineries, clubs, and other non-essential businesses to close. They've issued what they're calling, the county's issued what they're calling a stay well at home order. And we are currently working with businesses in a variety of ways to try to help support those businesses while encouraging compliance with the orders. At this time, some of the recent actions we've taken is, unfortunately, we, under advisement from the public health officers, we've recently closed the playgrounds to limit social interaction there and prevent the potential spread. And we, it's the hard thing with this is every time we say that, we've gone as far as we think we need to go, we keep hearing, new advisements. So a week ago, we would have said we'd never do that, but obviously things change on this.
In the skate park as well?
And the skate park as well. And then the county had asked, one of the items that was actually going to be brought up in this discussion was the county had asked us a week ago if we were going willing to consider ordering the closure of hair and nail salons. But again, the orders come out so quickly that most recent order already from the county ordered all hair and nail salons closed.
James, because the facility behind City Hall is a park, yeah. I would think that we might want to shut that facility down as we have with the other parks. I don't know if we need to take netting down. We could talk to the pickleball people about that, but we can just declare that park the same as we have the other parks, and that we remove any community involvement that creates an environment of closer than 6 feet. So I'd have no problem with that, and I'm sure none of the other members will.
A point of information, I don't think we've closed the parks as a whole.
We've closed the playgrounds. Yeah,
and James, as I understand it, the public works director has also taken action under your direction to close the tennis courts, but I'm not sure if that's the latest step.
No, that's actually not correct. We haven't closed the tennis courts yet. One of the challenges is the public health officer, in even his most recent orders, noted that it's important for people to get exercise, fresh air, sunlight, all those things, but it's becoming a challenge as everybody's seen the videos of the beaches and the trails where even things that typically would be social distancing are not social distancing right now because everybody's flocking to them. The other thing, we heard 300 people were golfing because, there was nothing else to do. So everybody went to the golf courses. So the county, which operates Sewell Park, closed the golf course because of that reason. So those are some of the things we can talk about. Obviously, there's no playbook for this type of situation. So we're trying to respond and make sure we're addressing everything. But at this time, we haven't yet ordered the closure of tennis courts or the pickleball courts. But everything's on the radar now of potentially.
Well, to me, if that does come up and we are noticed or notified that we should be shutting down tennis courts, I would assume that we'd be doing pickleball at the same time.
Yeah, right. I would agree with that. Yeah.
Right. That's the approach.
While we're talking on this topic, what about this Sunday's farmers market? There were definitely people congregating too close last Sunday.
Yeah. So we've been in contact with the farmers market. We actually were in contact with them, I think it was about 2 weeks ago and we agreed on a list of precautions that they were going to take. They were going to cancel all of the, non-essential booths, cancel the music and some of the other things that they typically have, put some requirements in requiring you couldn't pick up food and put it back. Once you pick it up, you have to purchase it. And then also trying to put in some distancing requirements. We did hear that this weekend got crowded at some points, and we actually had code go out and talk to people. Apparently there were some people there playing music, but they weren't with the farmers market. And so we had to go out and talk to them about not not, loitering essentially under the circumstances. So we had talked to them. We've talked to them again this week about trying to improve some of those things. The challenge is the state and the governor formally said, or I wouldn't say formally, but they went on record saying farmers markets are an essential service because of the need for nutritional, nutrition and food. So we are trying to work with them and put some precautions into place rather than, potentially shut them down.
Okay.
Anything else?
So again, a lot of the things that we had planned to talk about have already happened because it's happening so quickly. So I guess, it would be if there's any other requests or needs identified, but other than that, that's the latest update.
I would just like to say, James, and I'm sure I'm speaking for all of us, but we really appreciate how fast you are responding to any and all of the federal, state, and county requests, and the fact that you're thinking outside of the box and are really demonstrating a true concern for our community. So I'm just going to say thank you and just keep up the good work, and thank your staff because you're all in it together down there, and I just can't say thank you enough, and I don't think the community can say it either. Just thank you.
Right. I think we all
Okay,
appreciate that.
I'm gonna head up.
Okay.
Good.
Thank you for that. That is, it's funny. We've been talking to a lot of cities recently. We've been in constant contact with the county, the public health officer, and other cities, and people are always surprised to hear that we have, essentially 28 full-time employees, and we're continuing to offer all of the normal services that City Hall offers. And then we've also pulled people in to try to be able to respond to needs quickly. Obviously, we always want to do more, and we're looking at things we can do, but I appreciate it. And we'll pass that on to the staff.
And I can tell you, yeah, we're doing very well in that regard. Just again, a real congratulations to the staff on that. And when it's appropriate, Mayor, I had a couple of questions.
Okay, well, I'd like to make a statement just because watching the social media and some of the people I have seen around town don't seem to, maybe they haven't heard or they don't understand, but the issue of, started out being called shelter in place, but now it's, stay safe at home. And the reason for that is to try to break this cycle. And they say, well, why don't just the people who are most at risk stay home and the rest of us go out and do about our business? The concern that everybody needs to understand is that this is a geometric progression, and New York City is a classic case. We're very fortunate where we are, but we also have only one small hospital. The big danger is overloading the hospitals and the lack of personal protective equipment. So everybody, as the governor of New York said, we're all first responders. We need to control what we can control and be supportive of those who are the first responders at the hospital that will be taking care of everybody. Because it's not just the coronavirus. There are things like heart attacks and other things and auto accidents that occur that we depend on our hospitals to take care of. And if we are loading it up with people with the flu, even when they don't know whether we want them all to get treated. But that's an important message for us all to keep remembering. I had some people who didn't believe or say that they think vaccinations are a problem in town, that we shouldn't have, your children shouldn't have them. And I told them I didn't want to get into that political debate, but they needed to understand that in this particular instance, we all just need to do our part, since there are no tests right now that are universally available. And so it's, as was described, I think, by the World Health Organization, it's like fighting a fire with a blindfold on. And worse than that, we all know from the Thomas Fire what an ember storm is. And the virus is the ember storm. We don't know where it's going to hit, and we don't have enough tests yet to deal with this. So we are fighting an ember storm blind. And so the best thing to do is for us all to sit tight and try to ride this out.
Yeah.
Bill, did you?
Yeah, I had a couple of questions. And again, because of earlier, I'm doing another shout out to my granddaughters, Nola and Juniper, who are now watching. So how- stay healthy.
Anybody want to say hello to their mother or?
Well, yeah.
No plugs.
Yeah, right.
No plugs.
Hello. A couple of things. Really a question for Matthew. Matthew, under the emergency powers, does James have the authority, let's say that an opportunity to do a real quick procurement of support products, that are in desperate short supply to help the hospital? Does he have the authority to do that under his emergency powers if we could help with that situation, for example?
Yes, if the city manager finds that the purchase of supplies is necessary to help the city and the community's response to this crisis, then under the emergency declaration as affirmed by council, he has the power to make those purchases of necessary supplies.
Okay, so we don't have to do anything else on that.
Mhm.
And the other thing, that if the bill that is before Congress passes, it includes opening up a liquidity window for local cities, which is definitely on the table, basically either forgivable loans or outright grants. Do you believe he has the authority to proceed with at least applying for those at this time without any further council action?
Yeah, city manager has the power to apply for any assistance available from the federal, state, or other local governments, to include the county. Applying for any kind of a commercial loan is something different. But if it's a federal grant or a federal loan or a federal loan facility, then the existing emergency powers give the city manager the power to do that.
Yeah.
Something commercial would have to be set
There might
separately.
be a liquidity window that opens where we could apply for a line of credit. We wouldn't be spending any money. We would just have the line of credit available. And so all of that could be at least applied for, in other words, under the emergency.
Yeah, if it's a government program, then yes, that could definitely be applied for.
Okay.
A commercial line of credit would have to be separately assessed.
I'm not talking about that.
Okay, why would we be applying for a line of credit at this point?
Well, one example, Mayor, would be one of the ideas is that you, if things get bad and you're looking for having to dip into your reserves, that maybe would be liquidating a higher rate of interest instrument than the cost of getting a line of credit from the government. Plus, they're looking at maybe saying if you're not furloughing people in your organization, the loans would be forgivable. In other words, it becomes a grant rather than a loan. And these are just options that are being discussed right now in Congress. And I just, if something becomes available for cities, I just want to be able, the city manager can act. That's all I'm asking for.
Fine.
I have a comment, Mayor.
Oh,
It's a
Can
great.
you hear me?
you back
Can
on
you
the
hear me okay?
little screen.
Yeah. Yes, I'm back. I cannot see the other council members unless they speak, but that's okay. James, I was wondering, there's a lot of concern in the community about the homeless population. Perhaps give a brief update that I think 10, you can identify.
Yeah, we can
Give a summary to the public.
Yeah, we
yes.
can give that update. So we've been in contact with the county frequently every day, and we've told them that the next big issue, we immediately tried to help the residents, help businesses, and the next big issue that we're looking at and that we're all trying to figure out, which is a big issue that everybody's struggling with, is how we can do enough to help the homeless and the vulnerable populations within the city. So some good news is that the county is moving forward with the program that a lot of areas are talking about, which is the county contracting with motels and hotels to get rooms to put people who are at risk in. So they have opened up the first of those facilities, and they're working on a couple others at this point. The good news for us was that they've already said that they have identified 10 Ojai residents who've needed those services, and they're going to move them into those facilities, which looking at the amounts of the vulnerable populations in different cities in the county, 10 from Ojai is a big, we got a big proportion, probably more than our proportional share there. So that was a good sign. Obviously, I think we have identified that we have 51 homeless people. So obviously we still, we're working with them trying to get more services, but that was a positive that just happened this morning.
Okay. could you check into that? Because Tiffany Morris identified 36 students in the Ojai Unified School District that were homeless. And so, and then, consider the parents. So that would be at least 40,
Yeah.
possibly. Yeah. So, but
And
probably
one point
yeah.
that we should make to people too is make sure, and we'll put resources on the website tomorrow, but that we need to make sure that they are contacting the county as well and getting on the lists, because that's how they are identifying people. So if they're kind of under the radar, it's going to be harder to help. So.
Hey, James, I'm sorry, Susan, but James, didn't the county receive, was it 300?
Yes. Yeah. 300.
Is it 300,000 to actually provide services to the homeless?
Yes.
And I think that the best thing that we can do is, in the event of individuals that Souza just pointed to, or that Tiffany is aware of, maybe we interact with her. But the county provides these services and are good at providing these services. And it's not something that we have a branch or that we have the ability to do. I think the best thing to do is to make sure that anyone that's in need knows who to contact. And if they need help in contacting, help them do that. But I think that's the best. I think that's one of the best things that we could do.
Yeah.
Oh, so may I say something?
Yeah.
In response, my understanding is that Martha Ditchfield and Tiffany Morris have had a problem contacting the right person. That's why I started sending their emails to James, because they really were asking the city to step in and contact Steve Bennett directly, or whatever it takes. Martha Ditchfield was on the phone, but this is so new. She was on the phone with someone in Ventura, but they do need our help. So
yeah, and we've talked. We actually talked to Steve Bennett's office. I talked to them personally yesterday about it. So we're working. We're trying to work through those channels, and then to that point too, we're trying to make sure we have the good contact information for everybody. I think the point made about the county received $300,000 in funding for homeless related to coronavirus. And one thing people don't realize is we don't get any of that funding. So we're trying to really hard to connect the right people here.
It also encompasses 10 cities.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Ventura River watershed adjudication.
Yeah, and the city attorney may correct me. I don't think we have anything to report out on that. We put it on the agenda because it's another thing that's actively moving. Although we got the 6-month time extension for residents, which should help, and so we are putting it on to keep the discussion going. But I don't think we have any action to report at this time.
Mayor?
There's no action to report, but I'll just note for those who weren't already aware, the court, at the request of the city of Ojai and some other local partners, has approved an extension of the deadline for anyone who has been served or named in the lawsuit to respond to September 8th, 2020, about 6 months. So there's time for folks to sort out what their plan is, particularly recognizing even before the virus, everything else. And two, the city remains working together with its partners, including OBGMA, on finding local negotiated solutions, and is continuing to work with our local partners towards that goal.
Mayor?
Bill.
I would just like to add to that just, I believe yesterday, the State Department of Fish and Wildlife released their long anticipated stream flow analysis. And I was wondering if, do we have a separate water link on our website where maybe we could post that record for anyone to get it that may not have otherwise have access to it, or is that too much?
We can post that. We can post it. I'll make sure I have the right one too, and then we'll post it.
And I was thinking also we could post the CMWD document as well on that, if that's okay.
Yeah, I think we do have a water adjudication link, but if not, we'll create one and put those up.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anything else on that topic? And let's go to the preliminary budget forecast, Mr. City Manager.
Thank you. So I'll start by saying that we held a budget committee meeting on Friday, March 13th. I was going to say Friday the 13th. Should have been a sign, but we held the budget committee meeting on Friday, March 13th, and we went through this forecast with the budget committee, and it was well received, and we all felt pretty confident. And then 2 hours later, we declared an emergency related to coronavirus, and now now we're kind of rolling with it. So what I mean to say by that is, with this forecast and with current events, we all, I think, realize that it's basically our best estimate at this time, but things will likely change over the next couple of months. What's been provided to you is in the attachment A specifically, is our proposed budget for our starting point for the budget for this coming fiscal year. We had projected conservative increases in revenues, a couple percent for property tax, sales tax, and then 4% for TOT increases for those. At that time, again, we actually, up till March 13th, thought that those were going to be considered conservative estimates. With everything going on, those might now be considered aggressive estimates. So we may need to adjust those over the next couple of months. But that's what's reflected in the handout on attachment A in front of you. And then we had shown all of the costs from last year to kind of give a picture of what the budget would look like with those costs from last year. And then we had added in a couple of recommendations, such as the creation of a management analyst position at City Hall that would be working to help move projects forward. Really, that was it. Oh, and we had also included new budgeting software for the finance department so that they could do more timely, real-time budget updates. And with just those expenditures, what we saw was with just with a conservative revenue forecast, we saw that we were anticipating as a starting point a $340,000 deficit. Now, obviously, from there we would adjust over the next couple of months and bring back recommendations to bring that back in line like we did last year. But that was going to be the starting point for discussion. It's a decent starting point, but again, I know I'm repeating it, but we all are aware that we're going to have to modify as we go over the next couple of months based on how this shakes out. We've noted that the closure of the hotels and restaurants is going to have an impact, and it's likely at this point that this year we had worked to balance the budget, and we had just gotten it back to balanced. With the closure of the hotels and the restaurants, we are most likely going to have to use some reserve this year.
And if I could just jump in there, I think that's the important thing, of watch very carefully what's going to happen in Congress, because just to reiterate what I said earlier, they're looking at doing some direct grant support for local governments on a massive scale.
Mm-hmm.
So just kind of keep an eye on that. And it's specifically, they're trying to keep people's paychecks going.
Yeah.
So I just something to watch for. I'll certainly watch for it, and you have the authority you need to apply for any of that if it comes down.
Yeah. We're also looking at obviously possible insurance claims and other grant opportunities, but it's just we're all being realistic that this is going to impact everybody, including the city.
And then there's also through the FEMA as lead agency, they might be being very liberal about FEMA reimbursement, especially for both indirect and direct costs. So we're accounting for all of that. The public just needs to know we're accounting for all the staff time and everything as a possible eligibility for reimbursement.
Exactly.
Mayor?
And I'll add that we are monitoring everything very closely with respect to both the state's efforts and the federal efforts. And as opportunities for reimbursement or cost recovery arise, we'll make sure to keep the council apprised of those.
Okay, Randy?
So as I look over this, James, that I know the two biggest areas that we're going to be hit is the TOT and the sales tax. It seems like the property tax might be something that's deferred, and we may not have the impact in it as we are in those other two. Am I correct?
Yeah, we're still optimistic about property tax, but obviously one of the things floating around people have heard is that there's talk of extending the deadlines potentially for people. So it could impact us, in some way, but we don't think that will be impacted as dramatically as sales tax and transient occupancy tax will be.
If we had, I know this is a difficult question to answer, and you may need more time. I know that we don't have all of the information for 2019 and 2020 yet, and so it's going to be hard to project 2021. Do we have kind of an idea? Are we like down 30%? Are we down 50% in some of these areas? And if you'd prefer not to guess, that's fine. You can get back to us. But I think it would be beneficial for the community to really understand how hard all of everyone is being hit. And I know we're all aware of it, but numbers help people see reality, and doing all that we can to support any and all businesses in our community is important one way or the other, even if it's curbside pickup, things of that nature.
I think one useful number that we have pretty solid that we can give is just to give people the idea of the impact would be for the if hotels and restaurants were to close this was from the 15th of March to the end of March, which is pretty realistic. It would be about a $250,000 impact on the city, where again we had just balanced our budget, so we'd now be $250,000 to the negative.
That's in 15 days.
That's in 15 days. So, yeah.
Okay.
James, you're saying that would be just between, at the end of the month? Is that what you're saying?
From the 15th to the 31st, the loss of sales tax and TOT would be estimated to be about $250,000
for a 2-week period. Okay, and there's no reason to believe that this is going to be over on the 31st.
Right.
So we're looking at a hit that could easily reach $500,000.
Yeah. So for a month it would be about $500,000.
Right. I just want to say the hotels aren't running at 0% yet either, but it's not much.
Yeah.
They're considered an essential service, and they're open if they want to, right?
Yeah, but we do know.
And we got an update today from Jamie Fleming about who's open and who's not. And I know that I've talked to at least 3 or 4 hotel owners, and they do have some random stuff. They're continuing a lot of stuff. I know it's not an agenda item. I was contacted and communicated with. I shared this with James already, that about us potentially. I know there was some ideas about postponing TOT collection or stuff. I had another hotel today I didn't get to talk to you about yet, James, say, hey, even if it was only 2 weeks, which maybe sounded like it might be at least something discussable. But I know there's some interest in the hotel community to see what we might be able to do about the TOT to alleviate some pressure, but it's not on our agenda. I don't want to get too deep into it tonight, but I think we may need to review that in the near future.
Without even getting into projecting that particular question, just looking at the revenues, if we're losing $250,000 or $500,000 in a month, got what, 3 months to go?
Yep.
April, May, June, yeah. So
Right.
Yeah, we would project if we were to close through May that it would be about 1.25 million.
James, let me just ask you this, and it's just, I don't know how else to say it, but what are our options in the position of having to cut costs or lay anybody off or do anything like that? What are the available, what are we allowed to do or not?
I want to jump in there, but go ahead and answer that, James, but I want to just point out that literally we'll know more at the end of this week than we'll know now regarding to our options. The major options are coming.
Yeah, I understand. I'm with you.
Okay. Yeah, and we're closely monitoring, so we'll adjust as needed. We've already frozen all new contracts. We've frozen the recruitments that we had in place. we think over a couple of months, the things that we have already done will probably save about $100,000 over the next 2 months, which, we were pretty proud of. And then when we realized what the proposed drop in revenue is, we realized that there's still a gap there. But
James, even in contracted services,
right.
all the maintenance employees that we hire, and I know anyone in planning or building and safety, obviously the permitting process is down. So there's, I'm sure there's a lot of areas that you're going to be looking at as in savings for down the road,
right,
for offset.
And I think the positive that we have is we have a decent reserve. It's not where we were hoping it would be or where we'd want it to be, but we have a decent reserve, so we have a little bit of time to make those decisions. But we're watching it close, and if this does continue out, I would expect by probably the next council meeting we'll come back with some recommendations.
I'll just say this. I appreciate, Mayor Johnson, you've always been very stringent with us on how the budget would work. And you said, hey, prepare for the bad times during the good times. I think this one even caught you a little quickly. But man, it just shows you, learn your lesson, because you just don't know. I mean, you can't ever be prepared for the unknowable, unprepared for situation. And I think all of us have been in the same position. My main question has been to every county, state person I've talked to is, when's our next line of demarcation where we decide whether we're rolling back some of these economic shutdown, issues, and when do we know whether we're successful in that? And the answer was sometime between now and whenever. I mean, we really don't have an exact date, and we can say, hey, we've succeeded by all of this reaction, and now we can roll it back. And honestly, the thing I keep hearing is that may not be anytime soon, which I think economically for our community is going to be very difficult. I mean, I don't know. I looked at a different, and talking to people. The rental community of especially of hospitality workers in Ojai, employees at the inn, restaurant workers, everybody in town who lots of them I know and are friends. They are really, really worried. And if this prolongs a couple of months, not only is our city going to have a tough time, but we're going to have a lot of different issues that we got to start getting prepared for that may not be Corona related, more economic related.
And again, a lot depends on what Congress decides in the next few days.
Well, we know how keeping our fingers crossed on that works, Bill, but I'm with you. I sure hope they get something done, especially for the small communities and the states who are really on the front line spending their money. And, I'll just remind everyone in the public too who's listening, we will do everything we can that's reasonable, but don't forget, we don't have the ability to print money or borrow it or do that. We are not the economic stimulus part of this. We're the economic support part of this. Stimulus part has to come from hopefully the state, but more
comes from
the federal government.
They can't print money either, only Congress.
State can't print money either. They can do a little bit more with the taxes, but we are, we are, and if there are creative ideas in the public, don't be afraid to bring them to us. We are all hands on deck for an unknown situation, and all the ingenuity and creativity out there. Don't be afraid, because we're looking for new creative ideas as well. And I had 4 conversations with hotel owners and and Jamie at the chamber today, all having that same idea. And there aren't a lot of great suggestions, but I know we'll get through it if we put our heads together.
And it looks like Congress is going to approve forgivable grants to small businesses under 500 employees. So, we'll see.
Yeah.
Okay. Enough on that topic.
Okay.
Coronavirus, the economic picture is also grim. Okay, council member reports. So we start. Susie, do you have any report that?
I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay, Randy, do you have anything?
No, I do not.
Okay, Ryan?
No.
Bill?
No.
Okay, then let's go to the city manager. James, is there anything else you want to report to us that we haven't already covered?
No, I think we covered it all. Thank you.
Okay, future agenda items, considering the circumstance, so we leave that to the city manager to bring just the urgent matters before us and anything time sensitive. Call me.
I'd like to raise the issue of Do we need to look at maybe modifying the work on the general plan update since stakeholder input is really not reasonable to accomplish at this time?
Yeah,
Well,
I
you
could,
can just give direction to the manager to, everybody needs to slow down and stay safe at home, including the consultants. So
Right.
I
Yeah.
agree with you. This is not, it's waited this long. It can wait a little longer while we get through this.
Right.
Do we have anything on those lines, Mayor and Bill? Do we have anything regarding contractual compliance that we signed an agreement and it has to be fulfilled within a certain period? And do we need to go back and adjust that? That's what I'm hearing.
we should have flexibility. We had a timeline, a draft timeline we all were working towards, but there's flexibility to it. We had put together an 18-month timeline, but we all had agreed it'll probably be 24 months. Just the way it is. So we'll be in contact with them, and I'll send a proposed new timeline out, and we can go from there.
We think we can handle it without an agenda item, in other words.
Yeah.
Mayor, I have a question.
Yeah.
Regarding the ATP funding. Will it be impacted by this, the ATP funding and that mechanism, and also the SCAG demonstration on the 33? Is there any way that we might postpone that for a month or two? Also, there's no reason to necessarily do a demonstration if there's no children at school or the traffic has been stifled due to the.
We make just sort of a general direction to the city manager. Anything that can be reasonably delayed or slowed down, that we do so.
Right. Or impacts, just bring it back to council, or just let us know one way or the other. That would be the only thing I'd be interested in.
Okay.
Yeah, because, can I say something? An important part of the demo project was going to be public outreach, public meetings. And even though we have a capacity to do these Zoom meetings where people participate, I don't think it would be good for this. We need to wait.
Yeah.
I think we need to wait. Yeah.
Okay. Agreed. And we'll follow up with them, and then we'll put the plan together for that.
So going back to Randy's suggestion, put something on the agenda just for a report back to council on any complications or time-sensitive issues.
Right. Yep.
Perfect. Mayor, I just have one other thing. I was contacted. I don't want this to, I'm not necessarily a proponent of doing this, but I do think it's worth a discussion regarding the TOT, regarding at least, what we want to do for any time in the past and moving forward, and what our collection times are. May not make a huge difference moving forward if nobody's staying at the hotels, but I do think it's worth a discussion. And I know the hotels are very in lockstep about thinking we should be doing something. And if we're not, I also think that it's important to articulate why we're not, whichever way we decide to go, if there's any delay, relief, whatever you want to call it, without getting too much into the discussion.
Okay.
And also, Randy, that discussion Ryan is going to have to, we can't even have that discussion unless we know, I feel like a broken record, what's coming from Congress. Because if they're going to be getting direct financial support from the federal government, then that kind of renders that whole discussion moot.
Right, and I agree with you. I just don't know when it might need to be on an agenda. I mean, I think the next agenda in a short item is we're talking about.
A question for Matt. Matt, the Measure C tax increase, does that not take an affirmative action of the council to impose it? It doesn't automatically trigger, does it?
The affirmative action is for the council to certify the results of the election, and the council can, in that moment, decide when that takes effect.
Right.
The
so
default would be 10
point.
days. But yeah, so the default will be 10 days after the certification. You can stretch that later as desired. If the council, any other action regarding the existing TOT, the existing 10%, can only be done by the council. That's beyond the city manager's emergency powers.
No. Okay, let's stay one topic. My question is that the increase in the tax will be under the control of the council as part of the whole long-term economic strategy for the community to try and help our businesses. We don't want to add another burden if this thing goes on indefinitely, but we'll know that in a week or two. So when does this come back to us for certifying the election? Do you know?
It depends on when the county certifies
Yeah, they
the
haven't
election.
certified yet. They have till
The
the 6th
governor-
or the 3rd, right? The next
No,
one.
they don't. The governor's order
Oh.
on Sunday gave them another 60 days to certify the results of the election. We've heard today that the county plans to still meet the original 30-day deadline. Whether they do or don't is an open question.
Whenever they do it, then James will put that on our agenda, and then we'll have an opportunity there. With regard to past taxes being paid, that's money that belongs to the taxpayer, not to us or to those who collected it.
No, Mayor, I don't want to confuse it. This is not me promoting it. I think it's worth a public discussion of some sort because I've been in contact with a lot of people. And it's two things. I can tell you, nobody was suggesting that we don't impose the 15%. Went after me. The question was really about paying the due date for February's taxes. James, and help me. I know James, I think, was contacted about this as well.
No,
and maybe in the future what we do. And I'm not saying I disagree with you. I just think it's worth us debating.
Right. Well,
So,
okay.
so Mayor, I have just one thought on that is I think Matt needs to look into this because again, as a small business owner and the employee taxes that I pay, those aren't my money.
Right.
Those are monies that I from my employees and pass on to the agencies that require me to collect them. And that's where I look at this. That's not their money. It's a collection. They're a collection device. And so those funds technically are encumbered to go to other agencies. So instead of getting into a debate on it, I think we need to have Matt and the city manager actually look into it and see what legally we can or cannot do. But I don't believe that money is ours, or I do not believe that money is theirs if they've collected it.
No, we impose the collection though, Randy. That's why we just did the audit. And it's not a question of giving it back. It's a question of whether if someone fails to pay it under the current statute timeline, whether or not we're penalizing them, enforcing it, or whether we're extending that deadline to pay it. And that is not, and if we want to talk about waiving it, that's a whole nother conversation that fits into that. But I think, I just think it would be appropriate. Again, I'm not supporting that we do anything differently. I just think that we should have that debate so it's clear how we've decided. If the answer is we're not going to do anything, my personal opinion is that would be an agenda item I think would be worth a discussion. And maybe there's another option that
Unless
comes out of
somebody
that
is proposing doing something other than what the law now requires, what would be the item for the agenda?
Well, I will tell you, I had heard first that they were looking at that there was an idea of a waiver or a lengthy extension. Then I talked to some direct hotel people who said, look, maybe 2 weeks of just delaying it 2 weeks would be extremely helpful as we're figuring this out.
If we do that as an official action, that in effect is loaning money to somebody. If they choose not to pay their taxes on time, that, or to drag back, that's their business. But the question then would become, I think you touched on it, as to whether or not there are any late penalties or something.
Well, look, I mean, if you want me to, I can give you my whole opinion on it. As I've discussed this with James, I'm trying not to do it because it's not an agenda item, but I don't necessarily disagree with you. It's just one of those things that I know the hotels collectively are looking for that relief and they would like an answer. I feel that it's appropriate to give them a public answer, whether that's no, yes, or in between. I don't disagree with you. I think that money is held in trust by the hotels between collecting it from the taxpayer and getting it to the tax collector, and they don't have any right to be able to do that. Is it legally a loan? I don't agree that it's legally a loan because every time we fail to collect taxes on time, it's not an approved loan in any sort. And we know that that's happened before. But
yeah, right. There's a difference between granting permission to do something.
Yeah. I'll just make it simple. My personal opinion was I wasn't interested.
Yeah, I think we've gone off the reservation.
Yeah. So the short answer here is that only the council could do anything that's currently being discussed. So the question is thus, does the council want to have a discussion of it or not? I've heard the mayor pro tem ask for it. I haven't heard any of the others. There's your question. That's all we can discuss tonight. The short answer is, to answer the question from Councilmember Haney, I have already looked into this question, as has the city manager, and the answer is that all of the options on the table require council action to delay or waive or adjust existing requirements in the ordinance. The ordinance allows the council to take an action to vary the rules, but it has to be on an agenda. And depending on exactly what you want to do, how exactly you do that can be analyzed further. At this point, all you can decide is to put it on the agenda or not.
So I just want to touch on that, what you're saying. So if we wanted to do something moving forward, I would say agendize that. But anything that has already been collected and is in the past has to be distributed to the agencies that are recognized receivers of these funds. I agree. We might be able to do something moving forward, but I don't think, again, those funds are not theirs. They can't sit on them and use them for any other purpose.
Okay, but
That's
I know, but do you want to agendize it and discuss it or not? I didn't want to get into this debate. I mean, if there's a second, great. If there's not, I think it's worth us looking at. And if the answer is no, I understand. But I'm just saying I suggest it as an agenda item.
I would
to the emergency.
But Ryan, I would agendize it with you. I agree. It's a worthwhile discussion moving forward. That's my caveat.
Well, James,
But he's
James, I can
asking
ask you
for-
this. This is an informational question. What is I heard today in a discussion with the hotels and from Jamie that they wanted to delay the current payment. Would that be for February that hasn't been paid yet?
So it would be for February, which they have collected, but they have not remitted to the city yet.
And when was that? Is that due at the end of? Is that due at the end of March?
End of March.
Right. So I think what the request was for, and it's not my request, but it's the request that was given to me, was the February TOT that was collected, which we all agree was pre any epidemic, really changes in behavior. Can they delay the payment of that rather than being April 1st or March 31st? So like the middle of April. And I guess that would be the agenda item. And are we willing to discuss that or other options for TOT?
What is the penalty for late payment?
10% the day after it's due, and it's 10%, another 10% 30 days later. After 31 days, you're 20% on top of your regular that you owe.
Okay, so just like your tax return, so that we could have, that's what we're talking about, right? Put it on the agenda to discuss whether or not we as the taxing agency are going to extend the deadline for remittance. Is that it?
That's it.
Okay.
And I would not even include in an agenda item changing the amount to be collected or postponing the 15% imposition of Measure C. I'm not looking for that.
I have a question. Isn't our next meeting past when it's due, already due?
Yes.
Yeah.
If
And
the
it
goal is
didn't
to
change-
delay the payment, go ahead, Susan.
Yeah, James already made the decision, and my recollection is that we already supported his decision.
I don't think we voted on it as a council, but
We didn't vote on it. It was his
again, if we want to
decision.
change it, and again, maybe the agenda item says we've decided not to change anything from February's due date, but we are changing a due date moving forward.
Whether to put it on the agenda at the next meeting. That's the only issue.
Right. And discuss whatever options there might be if we want to change any of the TOT, given the circumstances everyone's in.
Matt,
But
can
can
we
you just
wait?
clarify?
Just a second,
Sorry.
please. Matt,
Okay.
question for Matt.
Yes.
Can we waive late payment and extend it after the fact?
Yes, you can. If it hasn't yet been paid, even if someone hasn't paid by the end of March and is overdue, you could waive the interest or you could waive the late fees, acting probably by ordinance.
Okay, so the question remains open. We can put it on the agenda to discuss what do we do about remittance time. So it seems like we've got at least two people who want it on the agenda, right? So, okay, well, so ordered. Okay. And I think that winds up the agenda for tonight, unless I've missed something. If not, thank you all for participating in this historic event. And we'll get better at it. Our apologies to the audience at home for technical difficulties. And this was a rehearsal. Okay. Good night, everybody.
Signing off from our secure bunkers located in the Ojai Valley.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye-bye all.
Bye.
Good night.